What's up, everybody? Welcome. It's Eric Taylor, BigEAstrology, with another episode of my Knowledge is Love Astrology podcast. And tonight we are live with a guest for episode 257, a returning guest, and an old friend that I get to share with you guys and introduce you to. Oh my God, this woman is amazing. She is a podcast host of the Unmuted podcast, Unmute with Priya. She is an energy healer, a speech pathologist, and just an overall amazing Gemini who is got a bag of tricks to help heal the collective. And we're going to get into all that tonight. I present and welcome to the show, Miss Priya Sudarsanam.
Thank you.
How are you, my friend?
Oh my gosh, it's my first live, and I'm just so excited. I'm just so excited to be talking with you because we just flow together and just keep. It's amazing.
Well, hopefully, maybe my wife will come in and watch the show on the chat and different people. But, I love that, that live kind of audience feel. It was fun having you on the first time because it was also kind of like us coming back together and getting to reconnect on this new 5D energy spiritual plane. So I'll wait for more people to come in before we get to how we met. But I guess I wanted to start off with some of the astrology placements, right?
Yeah.
You are the Gemini rising, the Gemini sun, and a Capricorn moon in 8th house. So we share that Capricorn moon placement together. In terms of growing up, were there areas in your life where having that Cap moon in 8th house that you felt restricted, or as you would say, unmuted?
Holy moly, yeah. I mean, restricted. Yeah, I was restricted till probably Rose is on. Oh my gosh, I was wondering how the chat's gonna pop up, and now I see it all popping up. This
Yeah.
is cool. So yeah, I mean, just culturally, and I think ancestrally, I think I was carrying on a lineage goes back probably, I don't know how far, but it was just, I had a role, I had to behave a certain way, I was in a box. And I'd say I broke out of that box in the last 5 years. It was just this, especially around 2019 or so, it was this whole process of literally breaking out of the box. But I would say I felt super restricted up until just even a few years ago.
Were your parents very strict?
So this is the thing. It wasn't that they were strict. It was just, it wasn't strict. Yeah, I mean, strict. Yes, they were strict.
Well, are you trying to say that maybe it was more because of the Indian culture that they were strict?
There was just expectations. It wasn't, there was just things that I knew I couldn't do because I was an Indian girl, and Indians don't do that kind of thing. That's kind of how I was raised. And my mom, she was only coming from what she was raised with. I mean, the lineage and just how you have to just train. I mean, I want to say train your kids to be a certain way. So I was in that, luckily I'm years later and I'm not even resentful about it because I understand it from that perspective. I understand ancestral patterns. I understand, man, you're talking past lives, all of that. But it was super restrictive. Even just hanging out with my cousin, who's my best friend, was, there were rules around that. There was secrecy. We always had to, the things that we got in trouble for were so minor. Like we weren't going out and drinking. We were staying on the phone at 10 o'clock at night because we wanted to talk about Def Leppard. Like, come on. Who doesn't want to talk about freaking Def Leppard?
So wait, tell everybody, because you were born overseas and then moved to America. So give us a timeline. You were born in Scotland, correct?
Yep. So I was born in Scotland. I'm going to go back with my parents' timeline, actually, because it's interesting. It's all makes sense. My dad and mom got, my dad went to school in India, and then he was, I think, 8 brothers and sisters. And my grandfather was basically like, okay, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be an engineer, you're going to be an accountant, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to send you here. So everybody got, did their undergrad in India, and then he sent people off to do their grad school. So my dad was sent to Scotland, Glasgow, and it was super. It's just super cool. He was like the first Indian lifeguard in the Royal National Lifeguard. He was the first Indian lifeboat man back in the
That's
60s.
awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's an article about him and everything. But then, they had an arranged marriage. Then my mom went over to Scotland, so they left India early 20s or so. And then after that, went to England, and we were born. My brother and I were born in Scotland, and then we lived in England for 7 years, and then New Jersey. I mean, who leaves UK for New Jersey? Come on, Dad.
Oh my
Cambridge,
God.
New Jersey.
Even when you say it like that, it's so freaking funny because the visual of that is like, yeah, I was in Scotland and England, and then I was in freaking Jersey.
I had the most amazing British accent, and I lost it.
Now, okay. So did you? Because when I met you, you didn't have it. So okay, so more people are here now, so we'll get into it, and I'll let you, say hello to some of the people in the chat.
Yep. Hello, Rose. I see Alana's here with us. Melissa, Moon Goddess 45.
Hey, Moon Goddess and Melissa. Melissa, are you new? If you are, anybody new, you could share your big three. So we're going to get into Priya is an amazing speech pathologist, and she's even going to share with us in terms of her journey into it and then out of it and now coming back into it. So let's start with how we met.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love telling the story. Oh my gosh. At Lavelle School for the Blind in 2002, or maybe
in the BX.
in the Bronx.
In the hood.
We didn't meet in the Bronx. We met on the number 2 going to the Bronx.
Well, yeah, we met on the train, but definitely we were in the hood. Let them know. It was hood.
Was it the hood?
Yeah, that's pretty hoodish.
That's how oblivious I was, I was really oblivious because I was just going to work. So yeah, I had just gotten done with grad school, and I took a job at Lavelle School for the Blind. Now, when you're done for speech pathology, you have to do a 9-month clinical fellowship year, and that's where I did it. Met Eric. I was in the same classroom. I was seeing the kids in the classroom that he was working in, and it was just immediate connection, right? I mean, we just had fun, and we saw the children from a perspective that I think no others didn't see that,
Definitely, yeah.
I'm so not awake at that time,
No, but tell them the myriad of disabilities that we dealt with, and then you can go into our one of our favorite, special kids.
Yeah. So it was blind and multiply handicapped. Most of the children had, blind, but some of them did have vision, right? So varying levels of vision, autism, and then
MR, cerebral palsy.
all
Down syndrome, Tourette's
syndrome. Yeah. It was like for coming out of grad school and being in that school, it was like you will learn, and you will learn quickly. And
but seriously, like, were you shocked at all, or was it like kind of, were you prepared for that population?
The thing is, I've always worked with special ed, and like the severity didn't scare me. I think neurotypical adults scared me. The adults were the challenge. The children were not the challenge.
They were the best, exactly.
I stand in a room of 500 children, and I will light up the room. Put me in front of 500 adults, and I'm a blabbering mess, So it was just because my first experience, and I didn't even realize it. So we had a neighbor growing up in New Jersey, and she was the same age as me. She had cerebral palsy, and I babysat her from 11 on. And I was putting her to bed. I didn't think anything of it, but I was doing it that early. I was 11. We had a graphic design class in school, and I made business cards, Priya, babysitter, and I was giving it out.
Are you kidding?
I've been an entrepreneur since I was 11. Yeah.
I love that. Well, listen, it's so funny. That is definitely that Capricorn moon, and especially in the 8th house, you were like, I'm about this paper.
So it didn't even dawn on me that we're the same age. I did it. it came second nature. It was just, I was doing it. So when I would work with, my camps that I worked at during college, or, they were all multiply handicapped, school for autism. And it just, that felt really normal to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
So, okay, now get into Mr. Larry.
oh, so that what the man who connected you and I was Larry Lambert. Amazing, amazing, amazing soul. He, oh my gosh. So when we met him, he was, he's autistic. He was blind from, I believe, a brain tumor.
Yes.
Yeah. And unfortunately, he ended up having the cancer came back years later, and he died after I left the school. But he they treated the autism. They said, and this is what, in 2002, like I said, and they said he's autistic. He can't be social. He's autistic. He can't play with other kids. He's autistic. He has to be isolated. And the teacher had him in a corner of the room, like facing the wall, and it was like, what?
And me and you changed that.
And yeah, I mean, I said no. He's coming at, like, he came on my caseload. I was actually scared of him. I had him the second year that I was there, because everybody would say, how he bit his thumb and out of aggression. And he had, I mean, his thumb was so chewed up because
And Larry was a very slender but muscular young Jamaican boy who was super strong.
yeah, he was
Like,
super strong, and he had abs of steel because he sat in his chair and he rocked.
and he just
Oh,
rocked all day long. And I'm like, oh wow, that's some serious crunches. Because
he
he
was
didn't do like a slow like thing. It was like full fledged, like, and I was like, oh my gosh, like,
So when I got him on my caseload, I was like, no, we're getting this kid to talk. And he, we took, both you and I, we took him out of his shell. We took
yeah.
him out of that corner. And he started talking. He started, saying what he needed. He was greeting everybody. He would come into the classroom and he'd say, "Good morning, Eric. Good morning, Miss Priya."
And
And
you know
then
what was the best about him, Priya? And I want you guys in the audience to really like understand this. Um, so Larry, like Priya said, we had a myriad of disabilities, and some of the teachers and staff were afraid of some of the kids because, like I said, we were dealing. I would say probably what 85% of the kids were, uh, Black, African American, and Latino. In terms of the disabilities, and they, I mean, that was not the major population of the staff and teachers. And so I think some people were put off or scared by him because Larry was very strong, and then he would frequently kind of like spit or saliva would come out of his mouth. And when he had to go to the bathroom, he'd be like, pee pee, pee pee, pee pee, pee pee. And like if you didn't let him go immediately, like he would get up and go. And what's amazing, Larry was completely blind, you guys, didn't use a cane, never bumped into anything.
mm-mm.
I never saw him bump into anything, Priya, all the years I worked there and worked with him. And I would, always have to take him to the bathroom. And I taught him really how to use the soap, wash his hands, and he would get the thing. And what was so funny, and I forgot the term, and maybe you could share this with the audience, but it's not it's the repetition. So like he would have to, like, each time he would have to hit the soap 2 times and then turn on the faucet and then like wash his hands and do but he had like a whole system. And if you tried to interrupt it, he would have to start all over again and then do it again. It was really fascinating. I learned so much. Is there a term for that, Priya?
So I know that there's it. You can be autistic, and then I'm blanking on the word.
Yeah.
Um, like OCD tendencies, where
Well, definitely had OCD tendencies. Yeah.
so I think, and you're right. If you messed him up when he was doing that, either he would get so mad,
Yep.
or, which rightfully so, he had a routine. Don't
Yeah.
mess with it. Like, it's simple. Like, don't.
I would love to see Larry's birth chart. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
That,
Um,
that
um,
would see stuff like that would touch my. So now tell everybody in terms of the speech pathology, um, well, you share. You kind of felt like you said you got burnt out a little, and then lead us into what you're doing now as you're
Yeah, so I
working
mean,
back.
I was at Lavelle for a couple of years. Then I went to public school in Harlem. That's where I worked for 5 years more,
Oh wow.
I think. Yeah, until 2009. It's all a blur. It's so far back. It was in East Harlem, and that was I didn't really I talk about the journey and transformation and just understanding. I'm waking up. Like you said, I didn't even realize I was in the hood in Bronx. I thought it's like, oh, we're going to the Bronx. Like seriously. And then I'm going to Harlem, and I mean, I think that, people were probably low income, you know, free breakfast, I think Title I schools. But in Harlem, that was my first wake up. I started seeing it, and I started seeing the poverty. I started seeing how, and this was nothing they taught you in grad school. I started seeing how trauma and abuse and neglect were related to speech. They didn't teach that. They didn't. It's like, wait a second. And then I just started to get so affected by it because, I mean, it was my first experience. So I would go to work, and it's so freezing out, and the child doesn't have a jacket. The child didn't have pants, and it just ripped me out. Like, I just was going to bed at 6:30 every night, and I said, if I have to stay here for 5 years, I've got to do something about it. And I literally put myself in a wall. Now, years later, I know I put myself in an energetic wall, which, without realizing that's what I was doing, because I had to protect myself so I can keep doing the work. And I kept doing it, and I kept doing it. And probably around 2019 or so is when I started feeling the burnout. I moved to New Mexico for work, to work on the reservation, Navajo reservation schools, and lasted 3 years there. I was like, okay, different beast, same system. I can't do this. And then I worked for myself for a good 10 years. But it was that burnout, just one child at a time, going from house to house. Now, where I live in New Mexico is McKinley County. It is probably one of the most poverty-stricken counties in the country.
Wow.
And
So it was like different poverty, but still poverty from New
rural.
Mexico compared to the Bronx and Harlem.
Yeah, and then the thing that I could bring to it is I was working for myself. So I could use my own techniques. I didn't have to worry about anybody telling me, like, this isn't what you're supposed to be doing based on research. I'm like, screw your research. This is my research,
And can I share with the audience, because we're going to get into what you're doing with speech and so much more now with adults, but you guys, I can honestly say, because I've worked there for 10 years and dealt with a lot of speech pathologists and all my coworkers and stuff like that. And we had OT, PT, mobility, all that. Priya was the best speech pathologist that I ever worked with, and always was thinking outside the box. And she has Uranus and Scorpio in her sixth house. That is the innovation at work in her daily routine. And Scorpio, transformation. So, like, I saw your Uranus and Scorpio in action every day, and it was brilliant. It was genius. And that's exactly how she used it and displayed it in helping the children, way separate from the textbooks that I'm sure you learned in grad school, and totally doing things that, like, your speech bosses and principals or whatever were like, well, that's not what we do. Like, Priya was a true vanguard with the kids, and we even both connected with another friend to go to the hospital right before Larry passed away. And this was after you had left the school, and then we saw each other again, and that was touching my heart, because, like, most teachers don't always go to the hospital for the students, and me, you, and another coworker, we just had to, because Larry touched our hearts that way. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I had to brag on you for a second right
Thank
there.
you. I appreciate that. And you're right. I mean, for coming out here, I thought, let's try something new. And when I was working for, it's Bureau of Indian Education, so the government schools. So they're the reservation schools from back in the day. So those still exist. So where I am, you have the public schools, and then you have the federal schools.
Is it mostly Navajo?
Where I am, it's Navajo, and then you have Zuni as well. Zuni
Okay,
Pueblo. So
and give us an insight because I've never been to like a reservation school. I mean, I'm in Arizona, so we've donated to the Navajo during the pandemic and stuff like that, and met many along my path. But what is the reservation school system like?
very bureaucratic.
Mm,
Um, of course, it's a federal system. I loved the schools that I was traveling to. So to the schools that I was assigned to were one of them was an hour and 20 minutes away. So that was my drive three, but the drive was absolutely incredible. And then when I went out there, I mean, it's a remote part of the reservation. I mean, remote. And I saw these kids on my caseload and I was like, they don't need speech. Their communication is amazing. Yeah, you show them a picture of a skyscraper, they're gonna be like, "What?" Because they haven't been out of that area. And so then I started to change it around and said, and I you don't have to use scores on test. And people were so rigid, they couldn't let go of it. You would have thought that they all had like signed contracts with the publishing companies for these tests. It's like, what is your problem? So I just started to do my own kind of dynamic assessment. Dynamic assessment is a thing. And so I was taking pictures of hogans. That's a traditional Navajo home. It's round and you see them all when you're driving around here.
yeah.
And using that. And I would use that as a picture with the children, and they'd say, "Oh yeah, that's what you do this, and this is how you butcher a sheep." And I was like, "You don't need speech," but the system kept them in special ed because all of these test scores. That is a whole other issue. That is a whole other issue. So I
Amen.
started to do things differently. I got hate emails from colleagues that,
Really?
yeah, yeah, it was really ridiculous, and and this is from my grad school. I had a really good professor about this, and uh, using the Navajo assistants. They weren't the speech pathologists, but they were the assistants. I was using them as informants. They were cultural informants. So, I would do an evaluation and say, "Hey, Eric, can you look this over? Is this typical? Is this typical for the language?" And then that was the basis of my evaluations, and they hated it. They hated it. I mean, the emails that I got, and so I left that after 3 years, and it was just it was not a fun place to learn because they were doing things based on standardized tests, and to teach cadence with reading, I heard them using dog clickers.
What?
It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
So
so
then I moved into early intervention, which was home based and birth to 3. And I got to do my own thing. And that was amazing because I got to travel. McKinley County is the size of Connecticut. So I have another nonprofit and we do home visiting. It's not the speech and stuff. I am an administrator for that. And our home visitors drive 2 hours to get to a house.
really?
Yeah, I mean, we looked at our annual report for 2023. Collectively, we had driven 50,000 miles as a team of 8. So I was enjoying that. I was driving everywhere. I was going to the homes. After college, I lived in Japan. I feel like I embody Japanese culture is I feel more Japanese than I do Indian.
Really? Okay.
Japanese, Japanese and Mexican, there's something about it. I connect with those two really. No, Latino cultures and not just Mexican and Japanese. So when I would go into the home, it served me well because I had that cultural competency. Rose mentioned competent right there, cultural competence.
Yeah.
And I had that to go into the home, and I was just always more apologetic before I was actually doing this. Sorry, don't mean to get into your business, and that just, they invited me in. I was able to connect with so many different families. Even years later, they see me and they know me, and their children have grown up. I mean, they were 3 when they see me, and they're like pushing their children onto me, saying, "Go hug your teacher." And the child is like, "Who are you?" But
Oh
uh,
my God.
so that was just profound, but it was also, I was not listening to myself, and I was starting to really burn out. I remember probably around 2018, I tried to take a week off. I didn't even know how to take a week off. And it
Wow.
was like, what do I do? What do I do with myself? I mean, give me 3 months off now and I'm just like sailing. I've got stuff to do.
Yeah.
But then I didn't listen to it, and I didn't listen to it, and I didn't listen to it. And that kind of hit ahead, hit ahead.
Well, because that's a key thing right there, right? So maybe let's get into kind of what brought on for you, because you said you were kind of like out of it, like in the 3D matrix. What kind of brought on the spiritual awakening? And then I want to tie it back to, I mean, we're going to get into pretty much everything, but I want to tie it back to and close the button on speech, what you're doing now with seniors with speech. But give us a window. So you said, was it around 2018, 2019 when you had your
2018, I wasn't listening. 2019, I was from 2017 through 2021. I was in a pretty um, mm, relationship that
toxic? You can say it toxic.
toxic relationship, but I didn't realize it how it was. There was a part of me that was saying, "No, Priya, you did it again," and so then the other side was like doing everything to say, "No, you didn't do it again." So I stayed in it way too long, and then 2019, I just kept going and kept going. It was a constant battle with that person, push and pull, and then I
And
had,
can I share too your placements to describe kind of that?
of course,
Because you guys, so Priya has the Neptune and Sagittarius in the seventh house, which can show like, being with partners maybe that are into, drugs, alcohol addiction, or just even deception, creating confusion for you, but that would be an indicator that, as I've advised Priya, she can only have a spiritual relationship. Like it has to be a spiritual connection first, then anything else, right? And
yeah.
then Pluto and Libra in the fifth house. And that, it's a double entendre in terms of showing the powerful healing of the pain and trauma and crises of the children, and the work with them and building those powerful relationships, because all of the kids, especially at Lavelle, loved Priya. Like even after Priya left you guys, kids would still talk about her, especially Augustine. Priya, Priya, Priya. Like, and Larry, I feel like, Larry, you miss Priya? Yeah, Priya, Priya. You know what I mean? So, like, you were still spoken about even after you were gone. I kept your name alive, but the kids
Wow, I
too.
didn't
You know
know
what I
that.
mean?
That's
And
the first
so
time.
that's that Pluto Libra connection in the fifth house. But the fifth house is also dating, romance, fun, sex. And Pluto Libra fifth house can be hard for relationships and dating as well. It can be challenging. So, okay. So
Yeah.
back to the story.
I mean, so we were away. And long story short, what came first? No, I do know. I have to stop saying that story. I was not feeling well that night. It was weird. And I mean, I had literally just had hummus and vegetables. So I couldn't have had food poisoning, I don't think, from that. But that I just felt ill it was middle of the night. And then I passed out in the bathroom. I remember it's the weirdest feeling as I talk to you now. I don't really talk about this much. It was this spiraling out, and then I passed out. Of course, I couldn't. I mean, I hit my head on the side of the bathtub,
Oof.
and then I found my partner was standing over me trying to wake, and then when I came to, I spiraled back in, and it was that I didn't understand that feeling. It's more of a sensation. I can feel it right now. Can't really describe it, but it's the same kind of thing that I
Well,
had.
he didn't take you to the hospital or anything. Well, like,
I I didn't wanna go to the hospital
okay,
because
okay,
I was scared about, what my copay would be.
okay.
Talk
Wow.
talk about 3D.
Oh God, yeah. No, that's heavy.
So I did go about 4 days later. I didn't, and this is the thing. I'm a speech pathologist. Liam Neeson's wife had died from hitting her head in a ski accident. She bled out. All these people I knew had had that same thing. It happened to me, and there was no frame of reference to say you could bleed out. No, it was like, no, I can't, I can't, I can't. Um, I don't know what that was, but the concussion symptoms set in probably about 4 days later and lasted until, I wanna say, a month ago.
Were you really nauseous in the beginning?
Oh,
Yeah.
it was horrible.
So it was a serious hit on the bathtub.
It was a serious hit, and then if you wanna get in the medical system, they wouldn't send me to a neurologist. They said I was not priority. It was just a concussion. I saw a neurologist end of 2022, or even it was 2023. But by then, there's no sign of it because it was just. And then I was like, I don't want to keep going to doctors and checking this out. I got to figure this out another way. But when I was talking to you about the spiraling out before I passed out, and then the spiraling back in, like this kind of whoop, it's the same. I do plant medicine ceremonies with ayahuasca. It is the same sensation. So when I first did the ayahuasca ceremony, I was terrified, but when I felt the medicine kick in, I was like, "Holy cow, it's the same feeling I had with the head injury. What if? What if?"
Wow.
I've always thought it was and with doing somatic work, we're going to go into that. I've gone deep into what was this because I didn't die. And it was literally through somatic work and really good practitioners. I was able to communicate. I was able to dialogue with my heart and my head, and they were disconnected. And my heart was saying, you stopped listening to me a long time ago. I wasn't going to kill you, but I caused this. Like, it was profound.
Wow.
Yeah, when I had that. So yeah, I mean, and then it's end of 2019, and then it's COVID. And then all of a sudden, people are talking about living your best life and doing this. And when I would do their initial ratings, they would do surveys, and I was 10 out of 10 in all areas. My life was so good. It's like, and then I would do some embodiment practice at the breath work or jumping and shaking. And then I'd be in hysterics in my backyard and be like, oh my God, I'm 1 out of 10 in all of these areas. And 15 pages of like journaling and burning it. And
So you were taking all the free all classes and courses and all the different spiritual modalities like all through the pandemic?
yeah. Oh yeah. And I mean, not even just free. I was in I was investing in myself with all these different programs that resonated with me. I
Right.
spent a lot of money on them, but they were all worth it. All worth it. Because I needed to learn, you know.
Okay. You
And it
want
was.
to check on the chat real quick, see if any questions you guys have for
Yes.
Priya
Any questions? I've got
or comments?
Alana saying concussions are so tricky. The doctors so often know nothing. Yeah. Melissa, yes, she was my sister, Melissa, here when she was during my awakening. And she is also a sister from my quantum healing certification. She
Oh,
helped me
wow.
through it so much. Oh my
Hey,
God.
Melissa.
Yeah. And so I don't know if I'm saying the name right. Shupo, Florida.
Oh, Chupo, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Shupo. Nice to talk to you. And Moon Goddess 45. Thank you. Duly diagnosed. That we were both trying to think of the words before when we were talking about
Oh,
Larry. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Moon Goddess is amazing. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
And your daughter's an occupational therapist. Wow.
yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. I love OTs. They are
Yeah.
so awesome. Yeah. So, no questions so far.
Okay. So now the burnout, the spiritual awakening, studying and taking the different classes, and we can get into the different modalities that you use in your practice. But I want to get in and close that button on the speech pathology because you shared with me right before we came on some amazing work that you're doing now with seniors. So share that with everyone.
Yeah. So I've been thinking, do I still want to do speech? I got back into it just a little bit with doing evaluations for another program, but I was like, nope, I'm getting burned out already. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And then more so, I want to say in the past month, and just for some family member who's going through medical issues too. We took a trip to the Barrows Institute, and that's the Muhammad Ali Institute in
Arizona.
Arizona. Amazing place.
Yes.
And I was just like, this is incredible. You see pictures of Muhammad Ali everywhere. You have movement disorders.
We were there because, my Gemini had a concussion, a
Ah,
TBI. It was very severe. So we were all in Children's Hospital in Barrows, and he saw one of the biggest specialists. He may have retired now, but his name was Dr. Cardenas,
mm,
and he dealt with concussions. And my son suffered for years, and he's good now, thank God. But there were some permanent effects too.
yeah, yeah. So I came back and then I was like, I need to start. I did this in New York, but before I moved out here. But I was getting trained by, I can't remember, his name is Harvey, International Aphasia Movement, and how to run stroke groups, aphasia groups, and
Mm,
groups for their survivors and for their spouses or their partners. And
right.
then we came back from that and it was like an intuitive hit. I felt like the universe was channeling through me. It wasn't me. It was like, you need to do this in this town. And it was like, I literally went out that day and I was like, where can I do this? The churches were going to charge. And I'm like, this is lame. You're charging me for doing this. So I found a senior center and they signed me up. It was like, date, it was no less than 20 minutes. They were like, yeah, do it. And I made a flyer, got it out to all the doctors and everything. And I have some people signed up and it's going to be a free group that I'm going to do, probably host twice a month at the senior center. And for people who, with stroke and stroke survivors and their loved ones, as well as traumatic brain injury and anybody with neurological.
Would that also cover like dementia or Alzheimer's as well?
Mhm. Yep.
Okay,
Anything
yeah.
communication related. And the best part about this, why I'm so thrilled, when I did it before, I didn't have the awareness, clueless of the whole spiritual aspect of this.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had no clue what was in I had no clue. Oh my gosh. And so now it's a completely different ballgame, sitting in a group with people and actually giving energy to them so that they can heal, like actually get exercises that are going to create new neural pathways. And so I'm really, really excited by it. And talk about, validation and confirmation of what I was doing. The very next day after I set this up, I went to a store and I ran into a friend. I worked with her in one of the schools and she had had a stroke from stress. And she goes,
Oh,
I never got speech because of COVID. And I was like, by the way. And so she texted me, she's like, I'm coming. And
oh
it was just so,
that's
yeah,
powerful.
yeah, so
That's
powerful.
that's God right there. That's
Totally.
wow, that just gave me chills. And it made me think because I'm like, oh gosh, I wish I would have had you around when my mom was still alive
Mm,
because, the speech, that's the thing with dementia that people don't really understand. But like for my mother, had brain cancer and then surgery in '04, but wound up having a UTI and a couple of falls and got in a wheelchair permanently in 2013, passed in 2020. But as the years went on, the speech got, lesser and lesser. And then she started to whisper.
mm.
Now, my wife, Alana, and I, we spoke, I said we spoke Cheryl, we could communicate with my mom. But, there were times where we couldn't figure out what she was saying. But I would realize like late at night when I was like tucking her in the bed, when it was quiet and no distractions, she would speak a little bit more clearer and comprehend well. And then when I gave her CBD, oh my God, she'd be more verbal. So
Yeah,
that was really powerful and profound too,
yeah.
because
Amazing.
that helps with the swelling in the brain
Yeah.
and
There's so
inflammation.
many
You
different
guys
things.
don't know that, yeah. So that's wow, I would love to see one of your groups and just the amazing work. So when you say like tying it into like even energy work and different exercises, give us an example. Like what insight or tips could you share? Because maybe somebody on here has got a mother or a grandmother or a grandparent or father that could have a stroke or dementia. What types of stretches or exercises or energy work could someone do practically if they're a caregiver at home?
Yeah, tapping EFT is an amazing way to wake up those neural pathways. I absolutely, I'll get to the questions in a second.
Yeah.
Um, I absolutely love tapping. There's just a series that you can go through to really help wake up those specific meridians, points.
And where do you tap on? Like where?
So the first one that you would do, let me think. Now you're putting me on the spot.
Sorry.
I'm having to pull from my brain textbook. So the initial one would be the karate chop, I believe. I might be getting the sequence wrong.
Right.
Um,
That's right.
there's things that you say as well, but it doesn't necessarily you have to say it. You go right here between your eyebrows, on the side, under your eyes, under your nose, under your lower lip, your collarbone, your thymus, and then either side of like right under your armpit. And then you just kind of gauge how are you feeling. You keep doing it. You start with a 1 to 10 scale and actually do it based. The way that I learned it was more like it's emotional freedom technique. So what was I feeling? I was feeling anxiety. Maybe felt it on a scale of 1 to 10. I felt it at a 10. And I will go through that sequence and then see where was I. And I would want to get to at least like a 4 or 3. Yes, thank you, Rose. Rose is helping me with this. Tapping on the top of the head. Yeah, I'm totally blanking right now. It's like
but that's powerful. And thank you, Rose. Yeah.
And the other one is Brain Gym. That's another. So Brain Gym was started by a guy, and I'm blanking on his name. And they were going to diagnose him, put him in special ed, and his mom said absolutely not. So he did develop something, educational kinesiology, and you're doing cross-lateral movements. You're hooking up because when you're doing that cross-lateral movement, you're creating that cross-lateralization with your neural pathways, and that creates when you can create that cross-lateral connection, then you just don't know what's going to happen as far. And I used to do that with my kids with speech. We had a method to the madness. Like before we were starting with speech, we would always do Brain Gym. Start with water, and then I would go, and it would be a reset activity throughout the session. If it was an hour session, we would do it maybe 3 times throughout, and it just kept their focus and made them feel good. So those are a couple of the things I will have to get back to you, because my first one is November 1st, and I'm just curious about what I'm going to do. There's no fear that I have to pull out the textbooks or I have to like review anything, because I know what my intuition is now. And I know what I'll be called to do, and during that session, that's what feels really amazing.
See, that's so fascinating. And I love, because in a way, that's also how you are so dynamic by using, Priya has Mercury and Gemini on the ascendant. And if you guys don't know, Mercury's in its planetary joy in the first house. So not only is she here to be a messenger, hence speech pathology, and we'll get to it soon, her Unmute with Priya, the name of her business and program, but she has the Unmuted podcast on YouTube. So you guys make sure in the description you go and like and follow and all that with Priya on Instagram and YouTube and support her channels. But your podcast is amazing. But I think that Mercury is so indicative to all that you do and continue to do and will do in the future, having the Sun and Mercury on the ascendant, but specifically, Mercury's at home in Gemini. And so it makes you very verbally gifted. Now, did you ever feel that you were not able to reach or communicate with a type of student or clients? Like I'm kind of curious, in terms of your placements in the chart. I'm kind of curious, because the Neptune's opposing the Sun and Mercury. Were there ever times where you could I could communicate with the kids, but I can't talk to my boyfriend, or I can't talk to my sister, my brother, or I can't talk to my parent? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that juxtaposed energy, like where I'm like so gifted verbally here, but then I can't find the words here.
Yeah, and I'm still in hiding with my family. I don't think they know that I talk like that. They don't know. I had a coaching session the other day, and she's just like, "You're hiding, and then you're out. You're hiding, and you're out. Like, what is the worst that your family's going to see?" So yes, that was exactly the case. I could be a certain way with my friends. Could be free. I could be exactly how I wanted to be, and then I had to be a certain way with family. Boyfriends, forget about it. I didn't have a damn ass voice in those relationships, and if I did speak up, it always backfired on me. So yeah,
and I got to tell you personally, for me, that's so different from who I know. You know what I mean? Like I could never see you like muted. I couldn't imagine you being muted in a relationship, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was always, so this is with, like I said, I was free to communicate with all the other, and and all the other dynamics.
Yeah.
For the most part, authority figures I had a hard time with. There was fear around them and speaking
Mm,
up with them, but like administrators and stuff like that.
right.
And then with the boyfriends, it was they would shut down my voice. I would have something to say, and it was just like, you can't shut me down. So guess what? You're getting a 6-page letter. That's what they got. It's a great. Let's like,
I love that. Oh my
like
God.
it was like I had to get this out. You can't shut my voice down. It's like I don't care whether they read it or not. I think they did. But it was
That's great.
yeah, never had a voice there. As far as authority figures, if they always tried to stifle me. So when the administrators in Harlem, man, I remember they called me into an office and reamed me out, screaming at me. I mean, I had to get my union rep there, and I was like, "What happened?" Just because I spoke up.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
it was
So let's segue into the podcast because I think it's I mean obviously it wraps up all that you do, all that you are, and we'll get into the different modalities you use with your energy healing and your work. But your podcast, I've been a guest, my wife's been a guest. I've been watching, I haven't seen every episode you've done, but I've seen a lot of them. And one thing that I love, and this is where for me as the astrology, professional astrologer, but the astrology nerd, it's like because I know you, I see your placements in action. Like I mentioned the Uranus and Scorpio before, but on the podcast and how you are in the interviews, it feels like it's free flowing, but you so perfectly and like gently guide your guests to really tap into when and how and where they were muted in their lives. So share with everybody the intention and everything about the podcast.
yeah. I just I want to say 6 months ago, I was like, I got to start a YouTube channel and unmute with Priya. It was, I don't know, just started getting catchy. It's my Instagram handle too. And then I was thinking, what do I want this podcast to be about? And it's just really conversations with people of how they've felt muted in their life. Now, not necessarily verbally, because I do have an interview there with Missy that she was very verbal. You had to be verbal in her family, but muted in a different way. And then what the things that they've taken, the steps that they've taken to unmute and whatever that means to them. So coming into themselves and coming into, everybody in a larger picture is talking about coming into alignment. But what it is how did you come back home to yourself? How did you come back to being you? Like, what did you do? And the great thing about that podcast is I never know where it's going to go. It's unplanned. We just get on a call and we just have a conversation similar to what we're doing now. And I think Alana and I had this. She had a plan of maybe she was going to talk about, and then
I pre-warned her, and she didn't know, and I kind of was like,
I didn't think it was
maybe
going to go
maybe
there.
talk about something else. She was like,
Yeah,
"Oh no, Priya and I already discussed," and I was like, "Okay,"
and it went in a
and it was
direction.
amazing.
Yeah, and it was fabulous. So my intention with the channel, with the podcast, is really to empower people to understand that, like, first to even acknowledge within somebody, because sometimes you don't know until you know. You go along coasting. Yeah, like I was a zombie for a long time, and I didn't, I was fine being a zombie because you don't know till you know until you know, right? And so it's just also to get those wheels turning in people, like, hey, maybe this is me. Maybe this was, I was Alana said, girl, you took me there. um yeah, yeah, maybe that, just really it's to empower people and their voices. And even Melissa, she started talking there. We didn't plan it. And her gift came out. I mean, and now she's taking her business forward. It's amazing and what comes out of people when they're actually just in a place where they can talk safely, and the power that they get, the feeling of empowerment that they get from saying the things that they've been afraid to say their whole life.
Yeah.
So that's my intention with the podcast. It's new. I celebrate the 40 subscribers that I have.
No, well, after tonight, you're gonna have more. You guys go click the link in the description. Make sure you guys are liking this episode, and thank you for your comments and like, share, and subscribe. And even after it's done, please come back and comment. It helps it grow in the algorithms. But please go follow Unmute with Priya on IG. She's got Facebook and YouTube, but definitely hit the IG and YouTube. Okay, that's important. But
You want me
okay,
to
so
read some of the questions here?
oh yeah, let's get to
Yeah.
some of the questions. Yeah.
All right. Let me see. Let's see. Let's see. Melissa said, Priya, how can we find you and work with you?
There we
We'll
go.
get into that at the end.
No, no, you could even do it now. Let's
Yeah,
do it now and then again at the end. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. All of my little links, and the best way to get in touch with me is through my email, priya@priyasudarsanam.com. Because I'm redoing my website, redoing everything.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the best way to get in touch with me. It's just me, so I am the one who's responding to those emails, and I will get back in touch with you. And then also, we'll see if we can drop the link here. I am doing a breathwork session tomorrow, free breathwork.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
10,
Type that in if you want. Yeah.
10 to 11 Mountain
Wow.
Standard Time. So
Okay.
that's going to be 12 to 1 Eastern. So feel free to come into that, experience breath work. It's pretty awesome. I'm going to see here. So Shupo said, what are some common emotional or mental blocks that help clients overcome that through mindset coaching? So yeah, let's go into that one. I think we're going to go into what I do now, and then I'll expand on your question there. And then Moon Goddess 45 said, yes, my father had a right ischemic stroke. He's still struggling with speech. I don't know if he would do EFT. The thing with that too is we're energetic beings.
Yeah.
Sometimes I would be with my dad. My parents are not always going to do what I do, but I do it. You'll be surprised that by you doing the tapping and how somebody benefits from that, especially, they're in close proximity to you. That's a way that you can actually start it.
And I would give your dad some crystals and also sound bowls or different sound frequencies of music and tones. It's been really great. And a lot of studies and research are showing it, right? It helps plants grow. It can help heal, brain stuff and even tumors in the body, or even if you can take them out and have them by a tree or in the forest baths, all that stuff can help dad out, Moon Goddess.
Yeah. And, I have different, the sound. Yeah, I have different frequency machines. I have something called a Healy. I have a mini Rife machine. Those are all great. But if you don't have access to that, a sound bowl, playing a sound bowl on someone is actually really powerful because you're getting that frequency and vibration directly. But connect with me. I'd love to talk with you. Reach out to me, and then we can explore what other things you can try with your father. That was it so far.
That's awesome. Thank you, guys. Yeah. So now all the magical gifts that you have and developed, share with the audience. What type of modalities do you use and the work that you do?
Yeah. So like that whole period after 2020 of deep learning, those 3 years of deep learning, I was, somebody could say, oh, quantum healing. It was like, oh, I got to learn it. And it wasn't just enough to have my own session. It was like, I don't know what this is. I need to get certified in it. And so, like I said, that's how I met Melissa here. And so in that period of deep learning, I learned how to read Akashic Records, a quantum healing, somatic therapy, and sound healing, breath work. I mean, all of that. And those are just the modalities. But what I essentially do, because I was there, is how to shift somebody from overwhelm, stress, anxiety, depression. I didn't know I was in all 4 of those until I was there, So
Wow.
yeah, I mean, it's only in retrospect that I can say, wow, I was in overwhelm, ridiculous amount of stress, anxiety, but especially because I had a chronic stomach ache, but I didn't realize, and I've had a chronic stomach ache since I was a kid. I
Wow.
didn't realize that was my anxiety, like anxiety of doing new things, anxiety because I thought I had offended someone, anxiety because the boyfriend was acting differently with me. Did I do something wrong? It was constantly, I was in this spiral. It was a ridiculous spiral. And I would have a couple of days of reprieve and I'd be like, okay, good. And then boom, something else would happen. And I was back in that spiral. And I didn't know how to get myself out of it until just really I started putting all these modalities together. And fast forward, and I'll go deeper into that. It's yes, quantum flow, and that's movement and breath as well. But what those did, what all of those modalities did is really put me into my body. It got rid of the noise. It got rid of all the different kinds of noise, my own noise, the spiral. It got rid of what is this person going to think if I say this, because I'm saying things from an authentic place now. So I don't really care.
Exactly. So you stop the self-doubt and being overly self-critical.
I stop the self-doubt. I stopped the negative self-talk, as you said. And what all of those modalities do really from a somatic perspective. And when I talk about somatic and energetic perspective, there's a great book, Body Keeps the Score. I always talk about that one. All of our life experiences create energy within our body. Now, some are going to be neutral. It's just energy within our body. Some have that bomb attached to it and it's ready to go any minute. So you're walking around, it's a good week, everything happens, then there's an interaction, boom, triggered. And it's like that that is what I do, is really to help diffuse that. Now, I would say that because Rose here is a psychologist, she is an amazing psychologist. The work that I do is a complement to the talk therapy. It's the energetic perspective of healing all of those things and also dialoguing with your body. So it's an amazing, amazing process. And I think I told you that when I had that session, I had a dialogue with my heart. I was in this hypnotic state and my heart was talking to me. And it just felt like it was like two parts. Meanwhile, it was this whole experience that was out of body, and I was able to understand the brain injury from that perspective.
Wow.
And so when you do this kind of healing work, it really gets to the root of what's causing those triggers. And the great part about it is it diffuses them, and it diffuses them once and for all.
Let me ask you a quick question though, because you referenced the stomach. Now, was it stress and anxiety, or were you actually having stomach and digestive issues?
I've had both.
Both. Okay.
But I think I've always been an anxious kid.
Well, but you could see that with the moon in 8th house in Capricorn, because the moon is our body and our health, but also the 6th house is digestion. So having Uranus and Scorpio there, it could affect all of that, even getting into, colon, ovaries, and just, just like unexpected stress or unexpected, events, or, like random, just like boom, like all of a sudden, like, oh my God, like my stomach's hurting. Like, so those are two placements that could really sum those energies up for you. And wait a minute, listen, Rose and Melissa, you guys aren't gonna get off scot-free. These are Priya's friends. Do you guys know your big three, or share your at least your sun sign? If you know your sun, moon, rising, share that in the chat.
Rose said she was a double Gemini earlier.
Who
I did not know that. Rose said that.
Rose? Okay.
No, she's a Gemini rising. Sorry.
Gemini rising like Priya. Okay. Yeah, my oldest son's a Gemini rising. Okay. So that's definitely good for psychology work, Rose. All right. That's cool.
Yeah,
And
they're amazing people to have on your podcast.
Listen. Hey, love to talk to them. Yeah. But and does Melissa know her sun, moon, rising, or no?
I don't know. I'll wait to see what she says here.
All right. Well, if you do know Melissa, if you don't know Melissa, then you need to reach out to BigEAstrology. Okay. Because your life will be changed forever with a birth chart reading. So
Rose asked, what is the big three again?
Okay, your sun sign, your moon sign, and your rising sign. They're the three prongs in the birth chart that represent your personality. The rising sign is the first house ascendant. That's connected to the time of your birth. Your sun would be like, oh, September, 8th, Virgo, or you're Gemini, June 1st, right? And then the moon, that would be on the time of your birth and the day of your birth. The moon switches signs and houses every 60 hours, 2.5 days. So Priya and I, when we were born, the moon was in Capricorn. So we're both Capricorn moons.
So
Which
she's a Taurus in the second decanate
Deacon?
with Gemini rising, and then she thinks her moon is in Pisces. Melissa is a Gemini sun. Got all these Geminis.
Wow, this is the Mercury night because I'm a Virgo, so the Geminis and the Virgo, there we go. I love it. Okay, and I forgot Moon Supo. I don't know if your place. I forgot you said maybe your placement last time you were on, and Moon Goddess. I remember, but then I forgot. I felt like you were a Scorpio rising like me, but I don't remember the sun sign. Maybe Cancer Moon Goddess. I can't remember. That's really fascinating. I could talk about astrology all day. So now, get back into the somatic work. What does that really mean?
So you get to the energy. You tap into the energy of where that experience or whatever's coming up for you or whatever that trigger is. Somebody might not even be aware of what's going on. They come to me for a session. They just say, I feel off.
Yeah.
Like something feels off and I'm just not happy and I don't know what it is. And we go digging and discovering. But the great part so breath work, as well as the somatic healing, is a great way to actually just move the energy yourself.
Yeah.
And it's empowering because the person actually moves the energy. Now, I can speak from my own experience that I didn't realize the power of it until about 7 or 8 months ago. I was in my breathwork certification program. We were doing a group breathwork session, and something weird, like it was like, I feel weird right now. And I was just lying there doing the breath pattern.
Right.
And the trauma came to the surface. The incident was clear as day. It was something that I had blocked. My brain had stopped the frame at a certain point.
You threw it back in the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
Like the Neptune, 12th house. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was like, I talk about breath work and all the somatic healing. It's like pouring water into the dark spaces. And then, you've just cleaned the space and it's so beautiful. And then you pour water there and now you have a clump of hair and you're like, where the heck did this come from? It brings it out. And then the great thing is that you've got the supports to actually move that energy. So one of the things I do if this were an example with a client, is we actually talk to that part of their body or that energy. What is it saying to you? And you start to see that it starts to change shape. It changes color. It changes energy. And so that lessens the symptoms of what they're experiencing. For me, I had my own sessions after that came to the surface. In the past, those traumas would have taken me years. I was still stuck in a trauma that was from 1996. Couple of sessions of dialoguing with my body and moving the energy, I swear I was a brand new person. And it was just like in my body again. So all of these modalities, what they are to do is to bring you into your body. I think so many of us are walking around, like I said, in zombie mode, out of our body, disassociated, not even aware of like what's triggering us. We just are in reactive mode when somebody does something, and you don't realize how that's contributing to the overwhelm and the stress.
Yeah.
And it keeps us in the cycle. It keeps you in the mind, living in the past.
Yes. And so many people are just in survival mode and going to work, to home, kids to school, whatever it is, whether you're married with kids or single, whatever, it's that 9 to 5 like routine that is really like snatching people's souls.
Yeah. 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 I mean, this is essentially what this process has done with coming into my body and having full body presence, awareness. Like I know the tiniest hair on my head to my feet. Like I have complete full body awareness. And I know from this perspective how I didn't have it before. So when I first met you in Lavelle, totally asleep, totally asleep. And it was, so all of these, like I said, these modalities, working with me are to really get you into a place where you're starting to feel in your body. When you're in your body, when you're diffusing those bombs, guess what happens? When you become fully present,
Yeah.
you stop replaying the past. You just become, you know,
More conscious and in the
more
now.
conscious
Yeah.
in the now.
Self-aware and yeah.
When you're in the now, that just equates to being happy, happier.
Yeah.
When you're happier, you actually say, "What can I do differently in my life?" You know?
So, let me tell you, I see, I always knew that we would both, be awakened. I was definitely, somewhat
Hilarious how I
pretty
found you.
awakened even when we were there at Lavelle. But I'll tell you one thing, like, like, see, for me, I think part of it is being the Scorpio rising, but when I meet someone energetically, it's like it's like an X-ray machine. I can see through your heart and your soul. And so like I can see who's real, who's kind of fugazi, like who, like people's intentions. And so right away, like I knew, and that's why, like, I had, you know, like terms of endearment for you, right? I would be like, Anamana, there goes Priya, right? And so I had all these different sayings and stuff for different people, but it was only if I saw something in them. You know what I mean? And I would always, Priya would tell you, I would always mess with her and joke with her and stuff like that. And just, even in the moments, because for me, I'm about snatching or taking a moment of joy, right? So we'd be in the trenches in the classroom dealing with kids yelling and screaming and this and that. And I would just find a way to like make you laugh, right? And just like, humanize each experience and each moment, and even doing that with the children. And I realize now, looking back on it, that that was like a holy setup, right? I only got there because of 9/11. I was a professional actor, all about me and the vanity, television, film, and theater. But it really was preparing me for one of my greatest assignments, besides being a husband and a father of four sons, was the caregiver and taking care of my mother for about 20 years. And so that building, that place, those children, it was such a training ground, but it was also like an awakening in itself of, look at these beautiful souls that are so reliant on you from 8:30 to 3:05 p.m. or whatever, you know what I mean? And it was such a beautiful thing, and I really enjoyed those moments, because I remember them distinctly. I don't know if you are like this, but with my Capricorn moon, I can remember conversations from like third grade. You know what I mean? Like my memory, moon is memory, and it's your mind and
Yeah.
your emotional mind, and like my memory is like wild sometimes. So I say all that to lead into, did you did you ever see like any spirits or ghosts, or or have any of those experiences when you were growing up or a young girl, or even now as an adult?
So, no, I didn't see them, but I think I was looking to see them because I
Mm,
wanted to see them so badly, but in that process, I didn't realize I'm claircognizant. I just
mm.
know. So so as far as I was at a retreat once. It was a personal development retreat, and I happened to be there with 3 people who had lost loved ones. And I was sleeping and I woke up in the middle of the night, and it was like all 3 of them spoke to me to give messages to the people at that retreat, and I woke up and I was crying. I was just and I was in sharing the room with 6 other people, and they were like I was like, "What do I do with this? This has never happened." So for a short time, people were channeling through me, and I did pass those messages on. I don't necessarily think that that's my thing,
Yeah.
so I don't have it open now, but I think that that's it was and it wasn't seeing them. It was just this like and it wasn't even hearing the way that we hear things. Like I'm hearing you now. It's
It's
just
just like an inner knowing of
it's
the
a
message.
knowing
Yeah.
of the message. And so that's where I've always stopped it because I thought it needed to be more tangible. I thought it needed to be the Sixth Sense movie. Like it had to be like that in order for it to be something. And meanwhile, I had been walking along like that, so I
Wow.
could see you, and I could just, meet you and be like, have you ever done this or have you ever done that? And it's an intuitive question. And I think I'm asking randomly, and the person will be like, that's wild that you're asking me this. So that's
Yeah. Actually,
clarifying.
I think when I did my session with you, I think we had one of those moments. I can't remember what it was, and maybe it was tapping into something in my childhood. But I think we, and you guys definitely book with Priya because it was amazing working with you, and it's so great, right? Because when you actually know someone personally, but then you kind of like meet them like on the spiritual plane, it's like a I don't know, it's just like a powerful thing for me.
It is.
You
It
know,
is. I mean, what the interesting thing is, like I tell you, my 2020 through 2023 was my deep period of learning. For some reason, at the beginning of this year, I felt the need to Facebook stalk you. It was like this intuitive hit, like Facebook stalk Eric Taylor, because and then I pulled you up and then I see the astrology and I was like, what? Him too? No way. And I mean, it was just I mean,
it was
yeah,
amazing. Yeah, no,
yeah.
that is so awesome. So okay, so when someone comes to you and they are because you mentioned the stress and the anxiety, but I think the one that can be really heavy, especially at this time, right? We're having these X class solar flares. We're going from the 3D to the 5D. We're leaving the Piscean age to the age of Aquarius. You guys, this is a bumpy ride. I always say faith over fear, but it's challenging, right? We're seeing all these structures and systems be destroyed and dissipate. And sometimes it can bring in fear, but quite literally, the key word that you said, and I know how I got out of it, for me, it was writing, but depression. So, how do you specifically work with that one? Because I think that can be a little heavier than the anxiety and stress
Yeah,
and feeling off.
yeah.
Depression can be quite a thick one to slap through or knife through. So share, how you kind of help people with that.
Definitely. And like I said, this is a complement, not a replacement for traditional talk therapy. So
Yeah.
um and definitely that system of mental health support. The way that I address depression is more from the energetic perspective. So let's say you were coming to me talking about your depression. We're going to the roots. Now I might pull some of my tools and say, hey, and I'm just using this as an example. What happened around age 2? Like, let's go back to that. And we do time travel during the sessions. We might do some inner child healing during the sessions. We might be you know pulling out some energetic stuff that might be within you, digging and discovering. So it's a whole journey of exploring. And I like to say and really emphasize that I'm not doing anything to you. Everything, of course, is with any of us, right? It's with consent.
Yeah.
But I'm not working on you without you knowing. And then where I do it and what I feel is different about me is I'm having you do it within yourself.
Yes.
And it has had profound shifts. I have friends who've had sessions that they've said that nothing has ever been able to help them get to the bottom of this or even come to a place of peace with it. And these sessions helped them finally. And now they're stepping into, like, they became, I even one friend in particular, I'm like, man, she's opinionated. Like, we get on the phone and she's telling me what to do. And I'm like, ready to say, don't tell me what to do. But meanwhile, I'm like, no, you have to tell me what to do because this was what was stifled within you.
I
Yeah.
like that. Wow.
Yeah. Uh,
That's that's so powerful. Go ahead. What were you?
oh no, I'm just looking. Rose,
Yeah, I'm gonna
the
say read some more
psychologist,
comments.
said supplemental work can really help a client break free, loosen the stuck places in psychotherapy. So yeah, we're a complement to each other.
Oh,
Um,
definitely. I think that, whether it's, sort of clinical Western stuff, Eastern stuff, every human is different, you guys. And I think there's a myriad of modalities and tools and counseling and therapy. Um, because everybody has different needs, and then everybody connects with different people in different ways. And so the key is having that open heart, right? And once you can really open up that heart chakra, and some people have to learn this, right?
Mhm.
Learn how to love yourself and forgive others. I mean, you start opening up doors and then doors, and it can be such a powerful journey of healing and spiritual awakening. But I encourage all of you guys, right? Right now, Saturn is in Pisces till February 2026, along with Neptune. We've got to have healthy boundaries. We've got to have compassion, empathy, grace, and mercy for ourselves and then others. But we also have to have healthy boundaries. You know, no one has the right, parent, husband, wife, kids, neighbor, sibling, to, hate on you or speak negatively about you to you. You know, you have every right to say, hey, stop. I don't want to talk. I got to go, hang up the phone, or just, remove yourself from their presence. And that's okay. Like, you have every right. Don't feel guilty, because I think sometimes, because of blood or because of this or because of that, we can stay in these places where it can lead us to stress, anxiety, and depression, because we're
Mhm.
being mentally, emotionally, physically, or spiritually or verbally abused. And that's never okay. So always be empowered to live and speak and exist in your truth, you know? It's so also I want to share, because when you said that, it made me realize I forgot you have Chiron the wounded healer, I believe, in Taurus in the 12th house. And it deals with your own emotional, physical, spiritual wounds, but it's also this energy where we can be pretty dynamic healers. And I feel like that's something that you do, and it's quite literally unmuting with Priya, like in the spiritual realm, because Taurus rules the throat chakra, right? It's our voice. So I think that that's really powerful, because you are quite literally helping people to find that voice and to
Yeah.
really unmute.
I mean,
So
I just never understood when I would work with a child and they weren't speaking, but they would start speaking, and they would maybe say their first words, and I'm with the parent and they're like, they've never said that before. And then it was one after child, and then hundreds of children. But I never thought anything of it about me that was healing work, because I was so disconnected from it, and associating it with, well, this is my grad school education. This is what this career is, but
now, see,
now,
and that's it. Your chart shows that this is who your soul chose to be.
yeah.
You were born to do this. Chiron in the 12th, Uranus in the 6th, Sun and Mercury in Gemini in the first house. You are here to be a communicator, to be a messenger, and to inspire, lead, assist, and help others to unmute and communicate. So it's
And just, I really want to help others feel the joy that I feel. I never,
yeah.
being a person that was as resentful and angry, constantly playing the past, living in the past, in a
Mm,
spiral of thoughts, um, so disconnected. And I was creating that in my life. And the person that I am now, and just the innate happiness that I have, yeah, I want a bazillion dollars. And yes, I'm building businesses, and I want all of that because I want to serve and, just be free. But there's just this feeling that I cannot explain to anyone, that came from me doing all this work and having my own sessions, of joy, the
yeah.
absolute joy to be alive, Like,
I,
it's, like, I wake up in the
no,
morning,
I know.
my eyes, and I just look around and I'm like, okay, I'm alive. um, yeah. So
That's
it,
beautiful. And I love how you said that, because I think for me, right, almost literally almost dying, being in coma for 40 days, just a few days ago, 3 years ago on October 16th, right, I awakened from being in coma for 40 days and almost losing my life and in the hospital for 85 days. And so, that joy, that gratitude, that love, that authenticity, the four highest frequencies, for me, it was the appreciation, gratitude, and joy in hearing my children's voices, my wife. The first time I remember I was able to get out of the bed and hug her again. Oh my God. And then it took to day 72 for me to feel the sun on my body and physically get to see and hug and touch my boys and feel the fear come out of their bodies. So joy for everything, right? Nature and tree. And I wanted to ask you with that, how much do you love and then recommend to the collective? I think about your Capricorn moon in 8th house, communing and connecting in nature with the grass, the soil, the trees.
Oh my gosh, I walk around barefoot all the time, just even in the winter. Like I gave myself a form of frostbite because I walk around in the winter with.
Be careful.
Yes. It just getting out and breathing in that air. And some people think, oh, I can't go out. I only have 5 minutes. 5 minutes it's not about how long. You just have to go and
Show up and do it. Yes.
show up and do it. The times when in these past 4 years where I felt, oh my gosh, am I going to die? Like, what is happening? Or there's an intense feeling of anxiety. It was going out on my sidewalk and just having my feet on the sidewalk is what grounded me. I walk my dog every day, just kind of just enjoy being, it keeps you present.
Yes.
There's nothing other than, that keeps you present. Being in nature is just, other than being here and the rattlesnakes that I saw during the summer, that doesn't keep you present. But I mean, I guess it does because, but still.
Oh my God.
Snakes are a whole other topic. Is there something in my chart about snakes and being scared of snakes?
No, but you just said the key thing about going outside barefoot, because you have Pisces and that rules the feet in the 10th house, which is out in public.
Oh,
So that was actually really, really kind of literal when you said that. It made me crack up. That's pretty awesome. So before we wrap up and go, let's read any last questions or comments in the chat, and then I want you to share with everybody again how they can not just follow you on IG and YouTube, but to even book sessions with you, and even that process, because you do a lot of work over the internet, and it works just great. Priya worked with me over Zoom, you guys, and wow, it was magical and powerful. But so go ahead. You want to check the chat and then
so the only
everything again with the people.
I saw that came through was from Shupo, and Alana answered it. She's asking,
what was it?
What are the Akashic Records, and how can a reading from Priya help someone gain clarity in life? So when there's so many. I mean, that's endless. The Hall of Records. Yeah. So when
it's like the Book of Life in the Bible.
Book of Life, yeah. And you can go in there, pull up specific records. If you're looking for, like, what am I here to do? You can pull up specific records that will actually play it out. For me, I see it almost like a little movie screen that plays out like this. And then the more I step back, I can see it, and we read it together. And it may not be you in the gender that you're in. It may be a completely
past lives,
right?
And your galactic life.
And your galactic life. So it gives you perspective on what you're here to do, why certain things might be happening. I know that with some of the readings that I've done, they've been in regards to the person and a relationship. And so we'll go in and pull up the record and read it and see why that dynamic might be happening. And some of those records can have karma attached to them, and that might be why a pattern keeps showing up in your life. I've cleared mine with men, hopefully.
Spiritual connection. That's all the clarity you need.
We have to go through your screening before I into any before. Yeah.
Big brother Eric is on watch now.
Eric, I'm sorry, you need to meet with Eric first before I read it. And then really see, like, what may have happened in those past lives that caused it. Now, sometimes, let's say for myself, and I can use myself as an example. I went in because my partner was being a certain way to me and aggressive and just not nice. But when I went into the record, I was actually the one being the aggressor towards him. I was being really abusive and mean. I was able to read the record, diffuse the energy around it, and see what change was created as a result.
What was that in a past life?
Yes, past life. Yes. Okay. So sometimes I'm reading lives, and it's the person it could be in the 60s and the person is maybe 40. So it's like very recent past life.
Oh,
Sometimes we're going back to the 1700s. Sometimes we're going back even further. I mean, it's
right.
an amazing journey. It's fascinating to just get that insight and ask questions. And the more questions, when we do those kind of readings, the more questions you come with, the more the picture starts to play out. So yeah, it's just a
Yeah,
fascinating.
Supo, reach out. Priya's the real deal, man.
Yeah. I don't see any other questions here.
That's all right.
Yeah, but that's all
This
right.
this has been so awesome and so much fun.
Yeah.
And just again, give the website and
So like
obviously,
I said, everything is still in process
yeah.
with my website and getting it redesigned.
They could always hit you up on IG as well too.
And hit me up on IG, Unmute with Priya. And you can also email me. If you see my name up here right now, it's Priya at PriyaSudarsanam.com. And then, yeah, if you are interested in the breathwork session, I know that Alana said that she was having trouble dropping the link in here before. Just reach out to me, even today, and I can get you the link for you to register. Like I said, it will be tomorrow, Saturday, from 10 to 11 Mountain Standard Time
Oh, for the breath work.
for the breath work. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
I really love that. And that's the thing, because I went to one of your what was it, a sound bowl thing?
I think you came to a breath work session and I was training and doing a training and breath work.
Yeah, no, it was powerful. I just remember that and I was like, wow. It was very transformative and for me super like healing. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I like those group I guess what do you call it, like group sessions?
Yeah. They're amazing. Yeah. Because everybody brings it with the energy. They're transformative. Um, yeah. I don't see any other questions. I think that's it.
Okay. Well, that's cool. Now, I gotta share some announcements and stuff. Listen, you guys, tomorrow, and it's a little bit before Priya's, but I've got coffee talk, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon Eastern, 2 hours, $20, astrological coffee talk with Eric, and I am teaching a very powerful lesson. So even if you cannot make it live, you can receive the recording and the video. It is the transit of the Pisces North Node and Virgo South Node, which will set up the next eclipses for the next 18 months. It starts January 11th, 2025. And so I'm going to break down the energy. And at this time, the sun will be in Capricorn, January 11th, 2025, and the moon is actually in Gemini. And so it's going to be very powerful. So I'm going to break down the chart, but I'm going to break it down and give you the insight of how that transit will play out from the snapshot of the time when it ingresses out of Aries North Node we're in now. And, we just had this, Libra lunar eclipse on October 2nd, and then this Aries, super full moon just the 17th, right, yesterday. So this is going to start to set up the eclipses in February, March, and then again in August, September, and then on to 26 as well. So it's really powerful, important information. You really want to get it. If you can't come live, hey, it's worth the $20. You just email me. It shuts off tonight around midnight. It's Eric at BigEAstrology.com, and you can pay via, Cash App, which is $BigEAstro, or my PayPal, Tailored to You Coaching, my old business name, the number 2, letter U, Tailored to You Coaching at gmail.com. And I'm just so excited because like things like this, Priya, I really love helping people and preparing them for, what's to come in the cosmos energetically,
Yeah.
because it's not a game. And this is going to be one of those, lessons and transits that is super, not just informative, but powerful for the collective because we have to kind of all figure out. Sorry, my computer's acting up here. We have to all figure out how to, really work with these energies coming up in 2025 and 2026, because there's a lot going on in the planetary alignments. Okay. we're going to have a lot going on with Uranus ingressing into Gemini and then retrograding back. And then it will be back permanently April 2026. Saturn and Neptune go into Aries, which is going to bring a whole new beginning in February 2026. But in 2025, Saturn will kind of take a little dip, stick its toe in, and Saturn is Father Time. We live in a Saturnian bubble matrix into Aries in 2025, and then go back to Pisces. And then Saturn and Neptune is that conjunction. They move into Aries together, and that'll be February 2026. So, the nodes are really important. They're the nodes of fate. The North Node is very karmic. It's our mission, purpose, destiny, extremely spiritual, and it's a consuming energy, right? It's like it just wants to eat and eat and eat and just like really, tap in. I don't know what is happening here on my screen. I cannot.
I can see you.
Yeah, no. I just, it just kind of messed up in terms of trying to end the show, but that's okay. I'll figure it out. But so that's the Pisces North Node, and the Virgo South Node. That's also known like when you talked about your parents, I was going to say the Vedic astrology, right? That's the North Node is Rahu. And then the South Node is Ketu, which is really more, it cuts, separates, and divides, and it's more spiritual, and it's in Virgo. So it's teaching us as a collective how to stop being so self-critical, over logical and analytical, over nitpicky, over, just being so logical, and trying to get us to be more grounded in our bodies, like you were talking about earlier, right? And being more of service to humanity and service to ourselves and fellow man.
Yeah.
So it's really a powerful transit, and I'm just excited, to work with everybody on that. So this was so much fun.
So much fun.
You are the best, my friend. You guys, thank you. Go comment after this live is over. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and do that with Unmute with Priya, especially on her YouTube channel. Get her some more subscribers. I want to see everybody subscribe to her channel. And if you watch this on the replay, please, click the link in the description and go follow Priya and book with her, because it is going to be really transformational, and just you can see she's my friend. She's got a real heart. All right, my friend. Episode 257, Knowledge is Love. And you guys have a great weekend. The moon's in Taurus now, so spend some time in nature. Us folks out here on the West Coast, we had a nice little cool down, so it's not as hot. I think our high tomorrow, Priya, is 73. So I'm like, yeah, baby, bring it on. Well, we were like cooking in the hundreds, so that's a big shift. And then on Sunday, the moon will get into Gemini. So... and that's a good time when it comes back to the sun sign. I'll give you a little secret. Oh, perfect. Priya's a Gemini, and so is Rose and Melissa. Here's the tip. Sunday and Monday. A little bit of Tuesday morning, but Sunday and Monday. Remember I said the moon is in a sign in a house for 60 hours. So it's 2.5 days. But quite literally, Sunday and Monday, for you three ladies and any Geminis watching this, it's a time when the chrysalim oil from your... from the crown chakra comes down to the root and the sacrum in your body, and it's a energetic reset. So at that time you can totally reset by intermittent fasting, juicing, fruit cleanse, water fast, just the longer you can go without eating, but also staying from drugs, sex, rock and roll, alcohol, even sex. But just if you could do that Sunday and Monday, you will feel such a difference. If you do eat very light. And, I know, Priya, you can do this, but it really is a monthly energetic reset. So anytime for, let's say now for a Taurus, when the moon comes into Taurus and your Taurus sun sign, you can take this practice and do it. And for you Geminis, quite literally Sunday and Monday, just take a break, meditate, fast, a lot of prayer, but really try to purify and cleanse the body. And you'll be like, wow, thank you, Eric. That was a helpful tip. And it's like once a month. It's really the best thing to do. So track the moon, and you can always email me if you have questions, and even book at BigEAstrology.com, my moon tracking service, where I take you through the whole chart and teach you how to kind of work with the moon, which affects your emotional, mind, body, health, intuition, your mother, and the family you create. Okay, so the moon is really important. When you get to learn the moon through your birth chart, man, you become a Jedi, Priya. So, all right, you guys.
All right. Thank you. This was amazing.
Thank you, my friend. All right. Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye, guys.